Everybody, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades.
Whoa, let's go. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you're not ready?
No.
Oh. Are you ready now?
Okay.
Oh, thank God. I'm Matt Connarton, and of course, to my right, returning this week, a newly shorn, I noticed you got a haircut, Gary.
Sure.
The Honorable Gary S. Hopper. I don't know if you saw, Gary, someone commented on Facebook recently under a posting of the show that you and I both needed haircuts. But only one of us got one. Yeah, somebody actually did post.
What are you waiting for?
I've been letting mine grow. It's summer. I like the wind in my hair when I drive.
I actually, that's actually one of... That's kind of a little bit feminine, but anyway, nothing personal.
No, none taken. None taken.
But no, it was I was going in for the shoulder surgery on Monday, so I had it cut Friday because I didn't really want to have to deal with my hair and.
Oh, that makes sense.
See, I'm not as dumb as I look. Yeah. I look pretty dumb with this cotton picking 25,000 times extra shirt on me, but it's actually quite convenient.
Why is that?
Well, because look at this. I carry stuff.
Oh, Norm came back for his water.
You mean you're smarter than you look?
That's not possible, but
that's true.
You were able to.
I carried my gun magazine.
You're able to conceal your concealed carry.
You can put all kinds of things.
I can conceal my gun.
Costco like him, huh?
Yeah.
There's really no limit to what I could put under here.
Don't say that.
Do you have your hand grenade under there?
No, I forgot my hand grenade.
Oh, see.
Stop playing with the microphone.
Glenn, stop playing with the microphone.
You'll have to forgive Glenn. He's new at this.
So anyway, we got a new
I'm
feature.
an old pro. What are you talking about?
We got a new feature today. It's called the New Hampshire Page 6 Report.
Okay.
And what it is it turns out, Matt, that there was a page in the New Hampshire State Senate that was sexually harassed by one of the senators.
Wow.
And if you look at my Facebook, it was talked about. In fact, I joked around about it and says if I'm reelected as state representative, I promise not to sexually harass the assistants at the New Hampshire legislature. And the problem is that the young man didn't want to press charges because then you basically lose your political career.
Right.
And if that's what you're probably going up there to do. Mm-hmm. So he didn't do that. So basically, we have a senator up there that's going to try to get reelected that is abusing his position as a senator. You have the rest of the senators that are complicit in it because they know about it and aren't doing anything about it. And you get the newspaper people who also likely know about it and aren't reporting it. It's just horrible. It's disgusting and it's horrible.
So what are you going to do about it?
I just did.
Yeah, but we don't know names.
Yeah, you didn't know names.
I'm not going to do a name because it's all like it's double check, triple check rumor.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm not going to repeat that. I'm not going to go to that.
Do I know who this person is?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
I'm sure we all do.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just I'm not going to. It is a rumor, but I've like triple checked it from different sources because I don't like even doing what I just did.
Right.
Because it's wrong to do that, but but I'm positive, and it's just horrible. Anyway, so that's the page. What page is it?
Page 6.
Page 6 report from New Hampshire. But anyway, we had Andy Martin coming on.
Who are you pointing at, Norm?
What?
Oh. Glenn has been summoned.
Am I going to jail now?
Yeah, I guess. Again. So anyway, we had Andy Martin's running for United States Senate against Jim Rubens, Bob Smith, and
Scott Brown.
James Brown.
Scott Not Brown.
Scott Not So Brown. And he's not here yet, so we're fortunate enough to steal Norm's guests.
Yes. Well, one of them ran out of the room.
Yeah.
You scared him. Your page 6 story scared him.
Yes.
So anyway, so we're going to change gears here and talk about Common Core. And I was going to want to come on the show, to Norm's show, talking about Common Core, because to give you an idea of the crap that they're starting to do, my grandson, who goes to Manchester school system, came home with a report that said, that asked him to determine a rule that his parents had that he disagreed with and come up with a cogent argument why it was not correct.
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious. So the school system and their new curriculum are trying to pit the parents against the children already. So, and he was uncomfortable with it because he's my
How old
grandson.
is he?
He's 8.
Oh, so they're teaching 8-year-olds to be defiant because they need any help.
Already.
Right.
Wow.
Already. That's already what's going on.
Well, there's a lot. The problem that we're having, and the reason that we've been on shows, and doing this, is because Mayor Gatsas promised the highest standards. What he and the Curriculum and Instruction Board Committee gave us were Common Core standards, which are lower than Manchester
wait,
standards.
Introduce yourself, because I don't even know your name.
Oh, sorry. Kimberly Morin.
Kimberly.
I'm the Manchester Political Buzz Examiner. I'm also an activist.
Oh, okay.
But what they did was they gave us the same standards.
When you say examiner, you mean like a doctor?
No.
No, it's like
I just
the Queen City
examine.
Examiner.
I
It's
examine
like, look at my arm
politics.
when we're done.
No.
It's media.
Right?
Media focus.
I noticed it. It is an arm.
It's media focus, right?
I examine politics
Okay, sorry.
and
I
any
wasn't sure.
and senators who do bad things.
Right.
So
Oh,
And
so,
good house reps
so
like
you
you.
had heard of that?
I had not heard of that.
Oh, you should check into that.
She
It's
will
quite-
now.
I
But you
will
know what's
be.
even worse is that Mayor Gatsas didn't only promise us better standards. He told 150 parents at a school board meeting last October 16th that the rest of the school districts in New Hampshire would envy our standards. In fact, he says all of America will do it. Yet we were just told by an expert in math that the everyday math is not a good system. It's a dumbed down. How you say?
Dumbed down.
A
So
dumbed
you're
down
saying
system.
this math, if this math system is so bad that I could pass it.
I don't know if you could even pass
I think
it.
you'll flunk it. You see what makes it difficult as an example? If I'm the teacher and I
That
say,
wasn't the correct
if I'm the
answer, was it?
teacher, Gary, if I'm the teacher, Gary, and I say 2 and 2 are 4,
Yes.
plus 2 minus 2, what's the answer?
I don't know. I told you I flunked.
4.
It is 4. The point is, if the kid says, but teacher, 2 and 2 are 4, why do I have to go the long way? And he says, or she says, if you don't do it my way, you get flunked, even though you had the right answer.
Right.
That's not a good system.
Put it this way, and Anne-Marie was talking about this earlier. With Common Core, there's a proponent who came out with Common Core and said if a child says 2 plus 2 equals 5, if they can explain how they got that answer, it's right.
Yep.
2 plus 2
Wow.
will never, ever equal 5
So they're
anywhere.
preparing our children to become politicians?
Robots to politicians.
What about like maybe in an alternate universe? 2 and 2 is 5. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
either.
where unicorns
Quantum numbers.
live, maybe.
Quantum numbers,
yes,
Joe
and
says.
Quantum
Yes,
numbers,
yes.
yes.
But
That's correct.
it. They're preparing our children to be politicians and to believe politicians because they're learning that facts don't necessarily represent facts and that the truth doesn't necessarily represent the truth. The truth is
Well,
relative.
maybe, you know what, you're right. They're teaching kids to say things that aren't true.
Yes.
Correct.
Politicians,
That's
yeah.
exactly. They're
See?
making robots out of our kids to believe the politicians only because they're always right when they're always wrong. Well, mostly.
But the thing is, and I don't like to throw this example out. You know, I joke around a lot, but the fact of the matter is, if you look into history, that's what the Germans did. The Germans took the kids and pitted the kids. They taught the
Against the-
children that their loyalty was to Germany, to the motherland,
To the state.
to the state.
Yep.
The Hitler
Okay.
Youth.
And if you listen to some of the reports from the parents back then, that's what they said. All of a sudden, the kids were starting to alienate themselves. They also changed their focus from the math and the science and stuff like that to athletics and things like that. So kids actually started liking to go to school because it was fun. But during that process, they were teaching those children to change their loyalty to the state instead of the parents. And eventually, the parents couldn't trust the kids, and the kids didn't trust the parents.
That's horrifying.
It's funny how you say that, Gary, because tomorrow I'm going to be playing a 8-minute film. It's called 2 and 2, and it's exactly based like that. It says that 2 and 2 are 5, and when the kids question it, the teacher says, "How dare you question the teacher?"
Right.
And because they insist that 2 and 2 are 4, they get flunked for not saying 5.
Right.
And that's another issue that a lot of people have found with Common Core is there's a lot of propaganda in it. But the reason that we've been talking about this, and you see that flyer.
Oh, you want to talk about the flyers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll just say the reason we're talking about this is because, like we said, Mayor Gatsas said, I promise to give you the highest standards. That's not what they're giving us. The Curriculum and Instruction Committee just voted to push forward standards that, number one, aren't complete. Number two, are pretty much nothing but Common Core. They used Common Core as the floor instead of other standards that are better. And they made a few tweaks. And a lot of the tweaks, if you look, are Indiana Common Core framework, which is Common Core. So...
Or they've changed a few words that mean the same thing.
That mean the same thing.
Right.
So basically, this is being brought up now that the Curriculum and Instruction Committee pushed it forward. It goes to the Manchester School Board for a vote,
Right.
and that's happening August 11th at 7 p.m. in City Hall. Parents, taxpayers, anybody in Manchester needs to be involved and be there because it affects all of us because this is our kids' future.
Yeah. Even if you're retired, it still affects you.
You're paying for it, and you're dumbing down your future. What's going to happen 15, 20 years from now when these kids can't get out and add 2 + 2?
Right.
Now, if the school board accepts the terms now of their so-called higher standards, which they're not, they're actually equal to Common Core or lower, we would have inferior standards, no better than Common Core.
Right.
That's
Yep.
not good. Our kids will have trouble getting into good colleges because the colleges require a higher degree in education.
For math.
Common Core,
yeah,
for math,
for
especially math.
All colleges require certain math. That's not Common Core
They
standards.
cut off half the math.
We have a-
Parents, teachers, and school boards will lose local control because the federal government will then be in charge.
Hold that thought, Glenn. Hi, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hi, how you doing?
All right, what's up?
What?
What's up? What's your question?
I can't hear you.
What's your question?
No, it's not my question, it's my comment.
What's your comment?
Well, am I on the air now?
Yes,
you are. The whole world is listening to you, but no pressure.
I just listened to Norm's show,
Mm-hmm.
and I called in on that.
Is this Pat?
It is.
Huh?
Is this Pat?
It is.
I can't really hear you.
Okay, go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, my comment is, finally, my comment is that I think Glenn was on the show with a panel, and what I said was the term common is inappropriate. Nobody is common. No state is common. No curriculum is common. And I think what happened here is they dangled the state's money in front of the school board, which was up in the millions. And they just said, yeah, great. But they said that with No Child Left Behind, and look what happened to that. And I don't think any state is common. I really don't, Matt. You have to assess what's going on in your state, and that's part of our legal right. And they accepted federal money, and once you accept federal money, you are not free. You're tied to the federal government. So what they dictate, you have to follow, or goodbye money. And I don't see what the big deal is here. We have been successful in our school system, and we've had kids go on to colleges, done excellent things in business, and now all of a sudden we are tied to this common, which I disagree with, Common Core course of study. And I believe that has got to go. And if the school board is smart, they're going to say, no. And why do we have to, after we rejected Common Core, have to align our curriculum to Common Core standards? If we're not part of it, we can do what we want to do.
Yeah, probably
and
it'll.
make decisions, huh?
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you go because we got to get back to our panel. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We shouldn't have to. First of all, we shouldn't have to. Manchester shouldn't have to rehash this again after there was already promised not to. And,
Right.
And
That
second,
was voted down 2 years ago.
and secondly, the big elephant in the room is it is not really important what those standards are. It makes no difference what standards there are in Common Core. The real issue is the federal government taking over the school systems. Yeah. That is the problem.
Exactly. And taking state powers, if you want to say that, to into the federal government, and that should not be done. We in New Hampshire should be able to do what we feel is right for our kids, and Manchester in particular, should be able to do that. I mean, there's no Common Core in Common.
So you're gonna show up? You're gonna show up Monday when they have the hearing?
I probably will.
Oh, good.
I hope you do.
Bring your friends. Yeah. Rent the bus.
Bring the kids.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Pat. I think it was Pat. Never did quite confirm that.
That's a nice. Have you tried that yet? That's
What,
nice.
the Glock?
Yeah, the Glock G42. I haven't seen that yet.
No, I haven't tried that one yet.
Sorry,
was just
different
looking at
topic.
Are you left or
I
right-handed?
saw it when you were looking at
Well,
it.
I'm right-handed, but my right eye doesn't work, so I shoot lefty.
Well, and at the moment, your right arm doesn't work
My
either.
right arm doesn't work,
So you
so
better
I'm
not
shooting
shoot at
lefty
all.
completely.
Yeah, you might as well just
Are
embrace
you left
your
eye
left side.
strong? Is that what the?
Huh?
Are you left eye dominant when you shoot? Is that
Well,
it?
seeing that my right eye doesn't work, yeah.
Yeah, duh.
That would be.
Yeah.
You sound
I'm
like
the
Common
black
Core.
I'm the blonde one.
You sound like Common Core.
That's your natural color.
Don't use a blonde. I don't believe in that.
But yeah, anyway, this is a new a single stack Glock. Glock finally came out with a single stack for concealed carry.
Yeah, it's a 380.
Yeah, but it's not nearly as small as like the Ruger or the
Oh, really?
or the others. Yeah,
Yeah, it says they're smaller, maybe smarter.
smaller than theirs, smaller than their small 9mm, but there's still quite a bit of difference. I gotta go to a gun shop and see what it looks like. 'Cause
Yeah.
that is pretty cool. Anyway, but that's the issue I would like to touch on is, as a state legislator, I've been dealing with. I got first elected in 2000, and I've been dealing with the federal government encroaching into everything. Go ahead.
We'll grab this. We have
Yeah.
another call. Hi, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hey, man, it's Ross. Hey, Gary.
Ross?
Hey, Ross!
Ross Terrio. How are you, sir?
You're all right.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, I had two questions for you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, first question is...
Can we have those in order,
warn
please?
Glenn R.J. Ouellette that his political career is over now that he appeared on your show.
Oh, Glenn already knew.
My second question is, are we to assume that the long-standing feud between Glenn and Matt is over now that he's on the show? I'm going to hang up and listen.
Okay, yeah. First of all,
Thanks, Ross.
on question one, whether his career is over, is actually completely incorrect, Ross.
That's right.
The fact of the matter is Glenn's got the nerve to show up in the show regardless of the outcome because what he cares about is the truth. Unlike some other politicians who only care about getting elected.
And he's an independent.
And he's
Independents don't win
independent.
anyway.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter.
So if there's, as far as
Thank you, Matt.
question number
gonna
two,
change that.
we don't tolerate long-standing feuds with anybody because this show's about forgiveness.
Yes. Do you forgive me, Glenn?
Plus, the world doesn't go nowhere if you keep feuding with people.
Right.
You don't get anything done, like the Congress. They don't get anything done.
No.
Glenn,
exactly.
Glenn knows I love him and respect him deeply. He just occasionally gets upset with
Let's
me.
get back to broken promises hurt our
He
children.
does. He gets upset with me. You get upset with me sometimes, Glenn. But you know that underneath that is great love.
Let's get back to the issues.
Well, Gary, you were talking about something. You made a point. There was legislation that was supposed to put the Common Core decision up to the legislation. Up to the legislature.
Right.
They would vote whether or not to vote on it or not,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
it never happened.
Because David Booten, who's running for state senate in New Hampshire, he voted against it.
Right.
So he, that was another thing that I remember that was about Common Core in the state legislature. There's a lot of votes about Common Core in the state legislature.
Yeah, there have been.
That's well said because Mayor Gatsis said that he was against Common Core, yet he is supporting Booten, who voted in favor of Common Core.
That's not necessarily. That's a false argument.
Why?
I've heard that before, and that's really a false argument.
Explain it.
Because Mayor Gatsis disagrees with Booten on Common Core, doesn't mean that he would not support him.
Right, and he might agree with him on raising the gas tax and putting Obamacare's Medicaid expansion into place.
No, I'm not. I know, I'm not saying.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I've got Neil Kirk in town. I'm supporting him for state rep. Neil Kirk is pro-choice, which I'm pro-life. He's really good on the Second Amendment. But you know what he's awesome on? He is awesome on privacy. You know what one of the biggest threats to our liberty right now is privacy. Okay? So even though I disagree with Neil on the life issue, I'm still supporting him because we need him up there fighting against this stuff. So just because I disagree, so there are people in the pro-life community will say, well, he's supporting Neil Kirk, so therefore he's not pro-life.
Right.
That's BS.
Well, I think it's a slew of issues. It's not just one.
I know, but when you look at candidate, though, you're looking at a series of issues, and you weigh those separately, and collectively you make a decision. But
well, except Second Amendment. Anyone who's against that should never even be elected.
They should be shot. I know, exactly.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
it's like Reagan said: if two people agree on everything all the time, and one of them isn't thinking.
No, you're not going to ever agree with everyone 100% on issues.
Right.
But and Gatz is supporting Booten just shows that he isn't, looking out for New Hampshire, because Booten has a lot of big government ideas, big, higher taxes, growing government. So there's a lot more issues wrong with Booten that's what I'm saying. It's not just this one.
Okay, I'm just saying that because they disagree on one thing.
Yeah, one or two things I'm with you, because I'm never going to agree with everyone.
Right.
Not even myself sometimes I might argue, but
Ross what he thought about Common Core. He is a school board member.
Oh, I think we know.
Yeah, I think we know.
Why? What is the answer to that?
I think he's one of the good guys.
He's one of the good guys? He better be one of the good guys.
Well, we'd like to hear from him, see if he wants to call back.
Yeah, Ross, call back and tell us if you're one of the good guys and if you're going to promise to support the Constitution and keep the federal government out of our education system. Because that's what it is. It's pretty much unconstitutional. It is the whole Constitution was designed around a limited federal government. Federal government is supposed to do a limited amount of things because that's what it does best.
Yes.
Okay?
Supposedly.
An example is it's like I got people. I asked the other day on Facebook, what are the issues that are important to the voters about New Hampshire, and they talk about this, and they talk about welfare reform, and they talk about all these programs. Some people are liberal, and they ask for more programs, more money for programs for the big programs that people would want money for right now, or all these kids dying on the streets from heroin. Treatment centers and things like that.
Yeah. And
the problem is, if you look at collectively, there are people in my city, my town, and in the city of Manchester that are paying 30 or 40% of their income in taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, 30, pretty much.
30 or 40% of their income in taxes. That's enough.
That's a lot.
That's more than enough.
You don't want more taxes.
Right. They're going to spend that money, their own, in a better way than the government's going to spend it for them.
But the reason it's so high is because all that money most of it goes up to the federal government. It's siphoned off to all these different things because people need to get back into office, so they got to pay off this group, that group, and this constituency and that constituency. They pay them all off. They give a little bit back to the states. And then you don't have money for treatment for drug addiction and things like that.
Well,
because all charity, all welfare should be local. The money should stay local and be local, so that you have control over it.
Totally agree.
And if there's corruption, then the federal government should step in and say, oh, no, you're not going to keep giving it to your cousin Jimmy. Okay?
Well, the problem is it got corrupted by the federal government.
Yes.
Back when FDR started handing out money, it was local, state controlled, and then all of a sudden that carrot was handed out.
But
and then
now
it became
we see
corrupt.
this happening to education.
Same
if we
thing.
allow Common Core to come in, we're going to lose local control to education and state control.
Yep.
And you said that is the worst thing that is going on.
So to me, if we're arguing against Common Core, it shouldn't be about what the curriculum is. I don't care what the curriculum is.
You should.
If the curriculum is better than what it is,
I agree.
Okay.
Yep. I see what you're saying.
Irrelevant.
There's several issues you could go at this, but for parents right now, it's just getting them to understand that these are really bad standards. Do you know what I mean?
I understand your
But
argument.
I totally get your argument
I just
too.
think it's that's not what the problem is. The problem is the federal government dictating what Manchester, how they will and won't teach their children.
And I agree with you, but you have to think as a parent who isn't involved in politics, probably never even read the Constitution. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
So that's I'm 100% with you. We should get rid of the Department of Education completely, wipe it out. It should have never existed. Reagan should have got rid of it. But my point is, I agree with you, but we have to speak to people on a level that they can understand, and this is hurting people's kids.
I think that's the other problem with Common Core. I am willing to bet if you look into it, there's very little emphasis on teaching children about the Constitution and bringing up citizens to the point where they become good voters.
Civics,
well, these are just math and English standards right now.
Yeah.
So,
guess
but you're
what?
probably right. I mean, we already have bad history standards and civics, very bad in this country.
Because the problem is we've gotten, and this is obviously has happened for years, we've gotten to the point where most citizens don't understand the Constitution.
Right.
They really don't understand how it affects them. And so we end up at this point in the United States history where the federal government is just taking over more and more. It's like this giant cancer that's destroying the country, and nobody understands even why.
Well, what happens is politicians, including some of our own in New Hampshire, take away our rights bit by bit, especially First and Second Amendment. Especially Second Amendment. They try to.
They try.
You know, you saw all the legislation last year that gun rights activists fought against.
Yeah.
But slowly and surely they try to take it away, and people don't pay attention. Maybe people don't understand the Second Amendment, don't understand their rights, or maybe they don't try to go buy a firearm because they don't want one.
Right.
But when they try to go buy one, half their rights are taken away, and they can't. Then they pay attention, and it's too late.
I'll show you how insidious this is. Is during the 90s, this is when I started getting politically active. You know, once you have children, your attitude changes a lot, because now it's not just about you. It's now it's what's going to happen with my kids.
Yeah.
And I started paying more and more attention. And if you paid attention to the politicians, National Propaganda Radio, ABC, NBC, CBS, who controlled the media at that time, right? All of them would interview a politician, say, do you believe in the Second Amendment? And they say, well, yeah, I used to go hunting when I was a kid. Okay? Nobody called them on that. That is such a BS answer on the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
Nothing to do with hunting.
You do not have a constitutional right to go hunting. That's zero why it's there.
No, it's because self-defense is a basic human right.
It's not just self-defense, though.
Well, no, but it's your self-defense. The Second Amendment, it allows you to protect yourself.
Yes, but its primary objective is to maintain the balance of power in the hands of the people.
Right.
Okay, and so you have people that are running for federal office, and they're asked by the media, says, "Well, do you believe in the Second Amendment?" Say, "Oh, yeah, I used to go hunting." You know, so people, if they haven't learned in civics class what the Second Amendment's for.
They have no idea.
They have no idea. So, that sounds legit. He doesn't want to take my guns. He went squirrel hunting when he was 12.
You've seen the anti-gunners' arguments against the Second Amendment. They're absolutely way out there in la-la land. They have absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Or not just the left, people who are just against the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Do you know that if Common Core goes through here in New Hampshire, and if it does go through nationally, that they're going to create massive data of our kids and collect it, which we don't allow them to do it now. Yet if we vote for this, we're going to allow them. And the students will no longer have privacy that we as parents and grandparents fight so hard.
Right.
And God only knows the things. They're already asking crazy questions on surveys, federal surveys. I don't know that they're related to Common Core, but it's the federal government.
Okay.
Asking all kinds of crazy things. I just saw a video earlier today about a woman in Louisiana whose daughter, 6th grade, I think, was asked really out there kind of personal questions and, how do you get along with your parents and how do your parents get along and just things you don't ask kids.
But in what context? Where is that
It was just
from?
a survey from the school.
Oh, okay. So the school was...
The school was responsible for putting that survey
Okay.
out. But the parents didn't know, the kids can opt out of it, but the parents didn't know about it.
Right, yeah. They don't go out of their way to tell you about
No,
opt-outs,
and
typically,
so these are kinds of in in this video. The child didn't tell the mother because she knew she didn't feel comfortable even taking it,
Right.
but she thought she had to.
Okay.
It's like cell phones. I believe the Supreme Court last month made it very clear that students' cell phones, you can take away a student's cell phone if they're misusing it in school, but you cannot go into that cell phone and get that information or listen to the conversation that they may have on tape there or text. And some schools are still defying it and doing it, and it's wrong.
It's funny, my cell phone went off just as you were saying that.
Right?
But I don't have anything on here anyone needs to worry
Maybe the
about.
government is watching you.
I promise.
Oh, please. They know everything we text back and forth.
That's true.
Yeah, actually, we did a show about that. That's one of the reasons I brought up Neil Kirk. Is a couple of years ago, we did a whole show about that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my adversaries in the state legislature had always been Claire Ebel, who is the director of ACLU in New Hampshire, because they're pretty communistic, kind of. But they're absolutely beautiful on privacy issues.
Yes.
There's certain things they are good on, yeah.
And she went around speaking at colleges, and if Matt will remember this, she was talking about this. Most of the kids today don't understand what privacy is.
Right.
No.
Well,
why.
it's the Facebook generation. You know, I think to some extent it's hard to make people understand about privacy when we're giving our privacy away so willingly. You know what I mean? And people don't. And of course, on the internet, once you put something out there,
it's out
there forever. And a lot of these kids don't think about that. They don't realize that. And then they try to get a job, and somebody's looking at pictures from a frat party. And
I'm telling you, I'm glad Facebook wasn't around when I was a kid. I'd
Really?
be in big trouble.
Yeah. Amen to that, sister.
Oh my!
But yeah, I know. I mean, like for instance, I'm aware of it. So when stuff that I post on Facebook, it's almost always either a joke or political, and sometimes it's both. You know, because it's not personal. I don't really.
Right.
Other than my arm and stuff like that, I keep joking around about that. But that's not something that I really.
Right, you're not posting info. Like I actually have like a family page, which is just family members, and then I have my political page.
Yeah.
And so you limit what what people know about you personally, and you limit, even who they know you're related to.
Right.
On like the political side, people don't know pretty much anything about me other than I'm conservative.
Right.
And I'm an independent. They don't know anything else pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that the federal government is going to start mining data about children so that they can prepare them for the particular job that the government thinks that they would be best in, which is basically where this is headed.
Yet this morning on NHPR, they had a debate on Common Core, and everybody that was on the panel were all in favor of Common Core. That's not a debate.
Yeah.
But they were mentioning that the people who are against Common Core should not think that we're taking our kids' privacy away, but they are.
Well, and that's why I call it national propaganda radio, because even when they have, they'll have a panel, and they'll have somebody they call a Republican conservative on the panel, and they're liberals.
Well,
they're like rhinos, and they'll use them as a conservative voice in their argument. I never hear.
They had no opponents on this. They had no one.
None.
It was all people who were proponents of it. The woman who was actually doing the interview, she was asking good questions, but she wasn't going to get any kind of different answers because all these people agreed.
Right.
It was like the Common Core Collective.
It's a scam.
That's not a debate.
No, it wasn't a debate.
Yeah,
When they had the debate at St. Elmston, it was the same way. It was all one-sided.
No, that's not true. When they had the
No?
they had the debate at St. Anne's.
Wasn't Anne Marie on that
Anne
too?
Marie was on one
Was
side
she?
of it. Yeah. They had three on. They had three. It was actually pretty good. It was the first time they had
Wasn't
a
Dr.
legitimate-
Pookie on there?
I don't know.
The guy, forget it. That's a whole different
There's a
story.
guy named Dr. Pookie?
No, it's like Dr. Pook, sorry.
So they
From
actually
Dairyfield. He was
Yeah,
on
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
and that's when I wrote a story about him because he believes that that we have white privilege.
Oh yeah.
wow.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
we,
yeah.
We know
know-
someone who's into that.
Yeah,
whole concept.
you know.
I know exactly. I remember
know
the whole
that's
thing.
gonna be part of
because that's when I
Common
wrote
Core.
about
Yeah,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't mean Dr. Pookie.
I love how racism is okay as long as it's against white people.
Yeah, or especially white men.
White men, yeah.
Especially white men.
Christian white men are wicked bad people.
Oh, you're evil.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I don't know
feel
if you're
evil.
Christian, but you're a white man, so you must be evil. You're a sexist, you're evil, you must be a racist, you must be a bigot. Oh, yeah.
Wow, she got me pegged.
I know, right?
I just met the woman too.
She's intuitive or
psychic?
something.
Yes, so.
I was
Oh,
on
she
Norm's
was
show, that's
she was
why.
on Norm's
I was
show.
on Norm's show,
okay,
so.
Yeah, that's
Kinda
right.
She
got that
makes
energy.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
She got that energy.
Yeah, so tell me what else you guys want to cover about this.
Well, people need to show up August 11th at 7 p.m. on City Hall.
Right.
They need to protect their children. They need to protect the kids' future of Manchester. Even if you don't have kids, you're paying for this. Yes. And these kids are our future. You know, whether you have a grandson or whether you don't have kids or whether you have kids in the school system, these kids are our future. What kind of future are they going to have? What kind of future are we going to have if we let this go through? The Manchester School Board needs to be stopped and not vote this through.
So,
and if you want to, if you guys get this in your doors this weekend or already receive it, please read it. It tells you exactly what would happen if they vote in favor of it. These are broken promises that our mayor and school board promised us. And what bothers me the most, Gary, is that the school board 2 years ago, like Pat was saying earlier on the phone, voted against Common Core. Yet last year, the mayor and the school board somehow ordered Common Core books, and they've been denying it all along. Well, 2 weeks ago Tuesday, a school board member, her name is Dunphy,
Robin Dunphy?
Yes, she finally admitted when she looked into it. We do have Common Core books, but it's okay. We're going to pass the pages that are Common Core. Excuse me, it's a Common Core book. How can you pass the pages?
What's going to happen is Pearson, who has a huge monopoly on school books, they're just going to be writing all the books according to Common Core standards.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're they were in on that with Bill Gates and all these.
It's baloney.
You know what's also ridiculous? This is you just get to the practical part of this. The only exception I think would be science and tech. Okay. Your school books don't need to be updated every year, every 2 years. No. We don't need to go from Smarter Balance to Common Core to No Child Left Behind and all these different curriculums every few years because A, you never arrive at a conclusion as to whether it ever worked.
Right.
Okay, you can't because you haven't allowed enough. Too fast. You haven't allowed enough time to elapse.
That's right.
Okay, so you're wasting money. You're wasting curriculum because now you have to buy all new curriculum. And yes, the federal government says yes, we'll pay for this percentage, but you know they're lying because that's all they do.
Yeah.
And so people should understand why the federal government always lies to you and why this will always be the case. And some people don't understand this. But every Congress, every 2 years the Congress changes. Every single Congress is not bound by the previous Congress. Mm-hmm. So if this Congress promises you to pay 100% of Common Core, the next Congress can come and say, well, that's a waste of money,
right,
and zero out that balance, and now you're stuck holding the bag.
Same with Obamacare's Medicaid
Exactly.
expansion. Yep, exactly.
All right? So when you hear the federal government say, well, don't worry about it, we're going to pay for it, they can't make that promise.
No.
They are it's unconstitutional for them to make that promise because they can't.
They don't hold the purse strings.
They do only hold the purse strings for that period of 2 years, and that's it.
Right.
So that's like going to a dealership and saying them telling you, says, oh well, we're going to give you this Toyota at 2% interest. Okay, and you look at your budget, you say that it's $30,000 car, 2%. $450 a month. Yes, I can afford this. And then, if this is what would happen if car dealerships were run by like Congress. The dealership turns over to another dealership, sells itself out, and sells it to another dealership, and the next guy comes back and says, "Oh yeah, 2%. We can't go by that. You got to give us 8%, and that's gonna be $650 a month." Mm-hmm. Okay, or we're repossessing your vehicle.
Right. Yep.
It would be exactly the same thing if your contracts were constantly changing. So every time the government, the state government, the city government makes a deal with the federal government, you can't depend on that. You're ignorant if you do, because they do not stick to it and they don't care. Because once an issue is kind of calms down, it's not on the radar, they'll just stick it to you because they know they can get away with it.
Right. Exactly.
I feel better now.
Yeah.
Do I look any better?
Did you take a breath?
Yeah.
I don't think you did.
I didn't? Okay.
I think you did. Yes, you did.
But and the other so anyway, really what you should be doing have a curriculum like the math guru from California called in Norm's show.
Yeah.
Yep, Dr. Miller.
Have a curriculum like they have had in Massachusetts, which is a pretty dang good standard.
Yep.
Stick to it and try to build the children in that school to the point where they can pass it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. And
Yeah.
stick to it for 10 years. And if it works really good, you know, because it worked good in Massachusetts, then you just keep going along that way. But you don't change it every 2 years and change it to some federal standard where a bunch of people who got paid off are trying to nail your kids.
Well, a lot of them too. What Dr. Milgram was talking about was that a lot of those standards were researched and tested. Common Core is unpiloted, has not been tested. The states didn't even see what it was until after they agreed to take it because of the money.
So that professor from Dairyfield, do they have those same standards
No.
at Dairyfield?
No.
No, they don't. So
But
I
apparently
questioned
he
that
teaches
earlier.
propaganda because, the whole white privilege thing.
Oh.
What bothers me is that he was one of those that wrote some of these standards for Common Core,
Yeah.
yet in his school where he teaches,
They don't use
not
it.
acceptable. Why did you accept it in Common Core then?
Because lowered standards
I
for
knew
the public.
For
the common people.
And that's why people need to go to this meeting.
That's why it's called Common Core.
Common
Yes.
Core for the commoners.
So really, it should be called Peasant Core.
Yeah.
The Peasant Core.
That's why we need to go to this meeting.
I like that.
better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Should
why
be-
this meeting is important because we need to demand better.
Yeah, from now on, it really shouldn't be called Common Core. It should be called Peasant Core because this is what they want the peasants to learn.
Yeah.
We need you to be this smart so that you can wash our feet and
Total control.
yeah.
Well, with this, you can't even get into a 4-year college.
Right.
No.
You have to go to a 2-year college first.
Right.
You shouldn't be having to go to college to make up for stuff you should have already learned in high school.
Which we ought to pay through taxpayer-wise.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it is. It's dumbing down our kids.
Somebody said today on Facebook that there are some colleges that require so much standard in education that by the time they come to their freshman in college, they got to spend a year or 2 years to catch up what they should have caught up when they were in high school.
And that's now with our systems now.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's something wrong with that. And this is exactly what Common Core would make even worse.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, that's okay because one of the head guys who helped write Common Core, David Coleman, who was never an educator in K through 12, now works for the College Board and he's dumbing down the SATs.
I heard about that.
How convenient, isn't it? Isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those guys that believes everybody should win.
Everybody
gets a
awesome.
prize.
Everybody gets a trophy, yeah.
Yeah,
if they're
we
part
should
of the
be able to
team.
think things through and, numbers and tests and whatever.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, you got to keep it more abstract than that, really, if you're gonna, because everybody should feel love.
Do you feel loved?
No,
No.
I'm a Republican. We don't get love.
Well,
No, I know. Right.
let me just say this, and this issue, Common Core or education, broken promises, has nothing to do with being a Democrat, an independent,
no, it's
or a Republican.
nonpartisan.
It has to do about our kids and
Yeah.
the next
No, I
generation
know,
that are
I
being
know.
raised.
If you're, that's just it. This is a local issue. It's not Democrat or Republican.
No, this
But
is
the
everybody
feds is
because
trying to
everybody's
make it
upset
that.
about this. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, Independent.
That's right.
There's some Republicans for it, some Democrats for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all across the board. So this just has
about
to do
our
with our
kids.
kids.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just it's fundamentally the two issues are it's the federal takeover of your kids' education
Yep.
at your expense,
And
Yeah.
we lose the local control,
Right.
which we
And-
don't want.
and if you want your children to grow up to be peasants, then Common Core is the thing for you.
Or robots.
What about plebeians? That's a good word too.
Plebeians.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
That's a good
What did Orwell call them? The plebes,
Plebes?
the
I don't remember.
I
Long
can't
time.
remember.
Yeah, what did Orwell-
Proletariats? Did he call them them?
Did he? No.
No.
I think he called them the Poles or something. I forget what it was.
I can't remember.
Yeah, they were the whole working class. It didn't matter, and they were kept dumbed
They were
down,
just the
and
drones. Yeah,
they kept them drunk and let them have their alcohol and their other stuff, and it was the people that were important. They kept absolute positive control and kept the watches on because those are the ones that were a real threat to the.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really, really bad.
Yeah, it
it's
is.
so stupid. I mean, because the thing is, you could take any curriculum from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, anyone. I'm sure there is somebody like it was like the doctor that called in on Norm's show. There are curriculums out there that already exist that you can use,
And they've been proven.
And they've been proven to be successful.
They've been proven. Yeah, for the math, you pick the one in Massachusetts, and that's actually one of the other things that I always, when we talk about federal control over state control, is the idea that the states were always supposed to be basically little experiments. Okay, the federal government wasn't supposed to run everything.
Right.
Because not only do they run it badly, but you could take that situation in Massachusetts where they say, look, we this is what our standard was in Massachusetts. This is what colleges our children ended up in.
Right.
20% qualified for, Brown or whatever it was. I don't know what the numbers are. And you can look at that standard and says, wow, New Hampshire can look at this. That really works well. That's what we want our kids to be able to get to. We want most of our children in New Hampshire ending up qualifying to get into any college they want to.
Now, are you aware that New Hampshire right now is number 4 in education of all the countries? And if we accept in all the states, I'm sorry, I didn't say countries, in all the states, and if we accept Common Core, we're going to be below that.
Basically, Common Core is like a union. In a union, the best worker eventually becomes no better than the worst worker because they're all paid the same. They all have to be the same amount of productive. They can't be better than one another.
Right.
Common Core is the same way. It makes the best students eventually become no better than the worst because it lowers the higher standards and brings up just a little bit the lower standards.
Right.
So everybody's the same. Nobody's better than anybody else. And that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell.
Okay. Yeah, it is so stupid. I don't know. Hey, on a lighter note, what do you guys think about what's going on in Israel?
On a lighter note?
Is it sticking right now?
What?
Is it sticking?
What, the
extension?
The ceasefire?
I don't know.
It's not going to stick because Hamas is never going to stop throwing rockets at
I have
them.
always said the problem isn't the people of Israel or the people of Palestine.
It's Hamas.
It's Hamas. When you agree to a ceasefire, you don't go around 8 minutes later and start bombing your enemy.
Hamas
It's not a ceasefire.
I don't think most people understand that Hamas is winning.
Because of the propaganda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's like a ratchet, okay? And by the way, I had one of the more interesting things I've ever done is I went to a PLO dinner in Newton, Massachusetts. I think it was Newton, Massachusetts, or Sudbury. Newton, Massachusetts, in the late 70s or early 80s. So I go to this Palestinian dinner, and the lawyer that was going to speak there asked me to go because he didn't really want to bring his wife because he knew he was going to tell him the truth, and they might not see eye to eye on that. The Palestinians, when they were there, all they cared about, and the only questions they asked me and my friend, were, what can we do? Why are we losing the propaganda war? What do we have to do for people that find sympathy in us? That's all they cared about. They didn't care about trying to reach a solution with Israel and come to peace with Israel. What they cared about, and this is the only question they had, was propaganda. I foolishly gave them a hint. Because I was sitting at the table and the food was awesome. There was so much garlic. My wife would not let me sleep in the bed that night. It was wicked hot. It was super good. Anyway, they said, so what can we do so Americans will like us? I said, well, if you stop calling yourself comrades all the time, that might help. So we're talking the 70s, okay? Mm-hmm. And the reason what they're doing is working is because every time they will start a conflict, okay, they know this. And they know that Israel will have to retaliate.
Right.
If somebody's shooting at your house, eventually you got to shoot back.
Right.
And they will take their 2-year-old child and put him up in the window. So when you shoot back, you shoot that child in the head, and then you put that on the front page of the Washington Post or the New York Times.
The media is complicit.
Exactly. So and so that hits the newspaper. Everybody goes, oh, my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah. Israel
looks like this big bully.
Yeah.
And so they calm it down. And that's another country that says, no, I'm not going to align myself with Israel anymore. Each time they lose just a little bit of ground, publicly with Israel loses a little bit of ground because of the Palestinians, the Hamas is proficient at propaganda, and if they have to sacrifice 100,000 of their own children to get there, they don't care.
Right.
And this is the problem: is the truth hasn't come out. The truth isn't being portrayed by the media. Actually, a French reporter just came out with a video today showing he was literally doing a report right in front of his hotel, and a rocket went off.
Right.
And I don't know if you saw it yet or
No,
not.
I did see that.
Okay, the rocket went off, and at first he wouldn't report about it. He's like, we can't tell the truth about Hamas because they will kill us. He actually did. He did a report, and he's like, we're right at a hotel, we're right where residences are, there's little kids around. He's like, there's a rocket being blown up, sent over to Israel from here. They're lying and saying it's not being put,
we know it's happening.
It's being put in populated places. And by the way, there was a building with a UN flag flying on top of it, right behind where that rocket was put. The UN knows it, but the UN is lying about it.
Well, if you look at the UN, look at their votes.
Yeah.
The UN is controlled by groups that are aligned with Hamas.
To some extent, that is very true, but I will tell you that the last 2 safe houses that were bombed, they knew the coordinates. In fact, one of the UN guys went on national TV and said, we reported to the UN that we found under the basement of the school, we found bombs.
Oh, bombs, okay.
Bombs. And we asked them to come get rid of them because we were supposed to be a safe haven for refugees. And then the last bomb they threw, there's blame enough to go around. Nobody's innocent on this. And that's the point that gets me. Instead of negotiating a true contract, but they're not going to because there are people on both sides that don't want it. And it's the people, it's the innocent citizens of Israel and the innocent citizens of the Palestine that are being hurt, while Hamas and some of the militants in Israel.
I don't buy that argument.
Well, I do. When you see 3 people on a bike that are considered Al Qaeda or whatever, and you're going to bomb them in front of 3,000 people, let them continue riding until they're out in the yard, and then you bomb them.
Okay. That is equivalent, saying that the citizens of Palestine are innocent is equivalent to saying that the German people were innocent of what happened to the Jews.
Palestinians voted Hamas into power.
I understand that, but when
they allow
50% of the kids are being killed, that's innocence.
No, they allow it. The Palestinian people allow it. They vote for it. They are guilty.
Hamas has got to go. That's the problem.
Yeah. But the Palestinians have to understand it well enough to say, look.
And until they do, there'll be no change.
And if you look at the tunnels that these people built,
hundreds
and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money.
The money was supposed to be schools and hospitals, and they built tunnels.
And these aren't dirt tunnels. I expect to see dirt tunnels. These are, they're like
concrete
really
with rails and electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cotton picking insane what's going on over there. And
cotton picking? I don't think I've heard that in a long time.
Every once in a while, Gary will say something, and I'll be like, wow, I haven't heard that in decades.
I probably haven't heard that since, Looney Tunes when I was a kid or something.
Okay, so repeat. Okay, before we only got 1 minute, so repeat what's going on.
Demand better, show up and tell the school board that our kids deserve better. School board meeting is August 11th at 7 p.m. That's this Monday at Manchester City Hall, third floor, and there's an elevator, and bring your kids.
And you can find out more information by seeing New Hampshire FamiliesForEducation.org. There's information on that website as well.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much, folks. I hope I can wear something better than this next week, but we'll see.
We're all on.
Bye, everybody.
Moo-moo.
There you go.